Bitter criticism. This time, I guess I'm reading everything. Let's read genocide here now. Let's read. I don't know. I just really don't know. Genocide here. Let's read Pepe Escobar. Yeah, Pepe Escobar is the more positive, most positive. Trying to find some article. I missed the door. Anyway, Pepe Escobar posted on Sputnik Globe. And says, accept them close. Pepe Escobar, from Donbass to South Lebanon and all across BRICS, it's all about resistance. This is from yesterday, 2 hours ago, I guess. No, 2 hours ago is Scott Ritter. U.S. had its fingers in every aspect of 2 hours ago, Scott Ritter. But this is Pepe Escobar, all materials. For those who keep track of the slings and arrows crossing the broader geopolitical chessboard non-stop is an immensely powerful and humbling experience to one day be contemplating the devastated Avdiivka in the heart of the war in Donbass, and a week later struggling to understand the devastation inflicted on villages in southern Lebanon. Pepe Escobar has been traveling all these places. It's all about the transcending power of resistance, unity in Orthodox Christianity in the black soil of Novorossiya to political Shiism in the Eastern Mediterranean. I have no idea about Shiism. It's this close-up in microcosm of the tortuous, bloody, pitiless ways of the angel of history, to remember Walter Benjamin's searing metaphor that really illuminate the always shape-shifting big picture and help us to better frame complex historical processes on the move. We are now geopolitically under the volcano, and one of the key questions ahead that may allow us to better find a way out is how the top BRICS nations will be reacting to the seemingly immovable forever wars ethos. So let's keep our feet on the ground. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has just gone through an intriguing Astana process loop. First, he was in Turkey, the new hegemony in Syria, at least in thesis. He met Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, the former head of Turkish Intel, and President Erdogan, even though Turkey will hardly dare to become a BRICS partner after it was officially invited at the Kazan summit last year. Ankara simply cannot afford to antagonize Russia, mostly for geoeconomic reasons. The wrong door. I choose the wrong door today. The Lavrov went to Iran following up on the Treaty on Comprehensive Strategic Cooperation signed on January 17 in Moscow. Lavrov and Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi discussed not only the proverbial mutually beneficial trade and economic cooperation agenda, especially on energy and transportation, but also the wider geopolitical chessboard, including ultra-sensitive nodes such as Syria, Yemen, the Persian Gulf, the Caspian, the South Caucasus, and Afghanistan, as well as what could happen next for the JCPOA to Iran nuclear deal. Yet absolutely key imperative remains the forever wars chapter in Ukraine, whose resolution or not will deeply affect geopolitics for the rest of the century. Three years ago, at the start of the SMO special military operation, President Putin qualified a series of objectives. NATO responded by seeking to up the ante. And there's Pepe Escobar in Novorossiya. Something happened to some church he was very attached to, emotionally attached. Three hours later, I will end up this on the station. Examples. Let's start with a security treaty imposing a demilitarized space on Russia's western borders at the return of NATO to its limits circa 1997. NATO responded by expanding in Scandinavia and now the Baltic Chihuahuas, supported by Finland, dream of turning the Baltic Sea into a NATO lake. While the Lugansk National Republic has been 100% liberated, Donetsk stands advanced at 75%. Kherson was 100% liberated in the summer of 2022, but then there was a retreat. It now stands at 75%, same with Zaporizhia. Quote, Ukraine has not been fully demilitarized yet, although the prospects are somewhat encouraging, or denazified, that will be a decade-long process, at least, end quote. Ukraine as a non-NATO neutral nation remains a real red line to Moscow ahead of upcoming negotiations with Trump 2.0, same with the acceptance by Kiev of Crimea. No, I saw something. I saw something too, like a rat, but the rat just gone. Anyway, Ukraine as a non-NATO neutral nation remains a real red line to Moscow ahead of upcoming negotiations with Trump 2.0. Same with the acceptance by Kiev of Crimea and the four regions as Russian and the removal of all sanctions against Russia. Washington may remove quite a few, but the vassal EU will keep them all. Not to mention, it's still a long and winding road, to put it mildly, for Moscow to eventually de-enclave. What the fuck? Oh no, it's like he's trying to catch some reflexes. I did something. Look. Just 1 second. Crazy dog. My cell phone is making some. Hey, Tom. Oye. Finally, 2 years later. So now I was trying to catch some reflexes of light. Crazy dog. So here we go. Crimea. Ukraine as a non-NATO neutral nation remains a real red line to Moscow ahead of upcoming negotiations with Trump 2.0. Same with the acceptance by Kiev of Crimea and the 4 regions as Russia and the removal of all sanctions against Russia. Washington may remove quite a few, but the vassal EU will keep them all. Not to mention, it's still a long and winding road, to put it mildly, for Moscow to eventually re-enclave Transnistria, which will require to establish a transport corridor through the Kharkov-Transnistria axis, as well as Odessa, a Russian city, and securitizing the whole Black Sea littoral. Control of the Black Sea was the prime NATO obsession since before Maidan in 2014. Walk on the wild Kafkaesque side. When we follow the money regarding the upcoming US-Russia negotiations on Ukraine, it's clear that what matters for Trump 2.0 is to re-establish the position of American companies in Russia, all the way to buying Russian commodities, as suggested by Putin himself. So geoeconomics rule again, bringing us all back to 2013 and the fateful free market agreement between the EU and Kiev. Trump 2.0 is building the narrative that European troops, not directly NATO linked, will be deployed in Kiev after the end of the war. That will fit into a soft power operation of convincing public opinion about NATO's annexation of rump Ukraine. Quote, Trump 2.0, meanwhile, is actively transferring to the collapsing EU the role of 100% globalist supporter of Kiev. Follow the money. This means the EU has to pay up for everything while the US gleefully exploits what remains of Ukraine's resources. In parallel, in this Kafkaesque universe, Brussels keeps piling up sanctions on Russia while removing sanctions on Syria, on the energy and transportation fronts, because Damascus, after all, is now ruled by jihadists. Our jihadists, compounding the circus, clueless EU mutts such as the next BlackRock German Chancellor now openly admit, regretfully, that Maidan from the start was in fact aimed against Brussels. The American goal, way before the toxic distribution of Nuland's cookies, was to sever the EU from Russia and destroy it as a technological competitor. Mission accomplished. Of course, in such a Kafkaesque domain, none of the above is enough to change the EU narrative. Brussels wants to allocate yet another 20 to 40 billion euros, which they don't have, and an unimaginable amount of American weapons to Kiev, as stated by the Hungary's Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó. Follow the money and the shadow play. Back on the Ukraine front, Putin has actually suggested that Zaluzhny might replace the current cracker actor in a sweaty sweatshirt. The MI6 is undoubtedly currently preparing Zaluzhny in London exactly for such a role. Quote, As for military budget cuts, Putin also accepts Trump's idea of dividing them by half. China politely disagrees. Were that to happen, Russia's budget will roughly be back to what it was before the SMO, while the Americans will have to cut off $400 million. Elon Musk's dodge will be thrilled. The deep state will fight it to death. Yeah, it's pretty reasonable. All this is interesting. I'm going to listen to myself. It's very reasonable, yeah. I read on Russia Today. I forgot. What I read on Al Jazeera, yeah, something I don't remember if Al Jazeera, I guess it was Al Jazeera. Trump is selling weapons to Israel, more weapons. Anyway, for all the intertwined shadow play that is taking place on all fronts, invisible to public opinion, there is an undercurrent of skeptical dissent in Moscow, according to which, after 3 years of a narrative insisting the Ukraine war was a US war on Russia, certainly by the globalist Democrats' axis, plus the Ukrainian biolabs, the tsunami of sanctions, the Nord Stream bombings, Moscow is now willing to restart economic cooperation with Washington from scratch. Of course, it's not so simple, but there are indeed fears that a possible quote-unquote peace deal may turn out to be yet another American quote-unquote follow the money win. Quote, whatever happens next, and no one knows what that will be, the fact remains that it's Putin who's now in charge of this new chapter of the art of the deal, swiftly dodging. Can you see? There's a word. I will search for this dodging, because dodgy is not innocent, you know, dodge. But there is dodging verb. Swiftly, I don't know which is dodging. I'm not absolutely native. Dodging violent threats and non-stop bullying and reverting them Sun Tzu style. Putin cannot possibly accept European quote-unquote peacekeepers in Ukraine because Russian public opinion will never accept it. Quote, without making a single move, just plain Sun Tzu, Putin has already made Trump humiliate the Kiev actor in front of the whole planet, and de facto relegate the EU to the dustbin of history. But you know, it's just an actor, you know, it's just an actor. There's a lot of treason in Ukraine, isn't it? So Ukrainian people, they are absolutely destroyed. They are absolutely defeated. They are under, I don't know how many died. Nobody knows. But Palestinians maybe are more Ukrainians dead than Palestinians. And Palestinians are 80,000. 80,000 Ukrainians. How about that? Maybe it's more. Who knows? It's just an actor, you know. It's such a great role. Such a great role for an actor. He's nobody, you know. Unfortunately, I live in South Ukraine, which is Chile, South Philippines, Ukraine, Philippines, Chile, all puppet states. It's all lies. All these countries, we live in lies. That's the whole truth. And yet, once again, this nagging feeling persists across well-informed circles in Moscow that a few Ukraine-related deals on the end of the war have already been clinched in the background. That explains why certain Russian and American outbursts seem to be too well synchronized. Once again, shadow play and follow the money. When Putin talks about possible joint US-Russian investments on aluminum production in Siberia, he's thinking about sanctions being erased on Russia's aluminum industry. Same with American investments in Donbass. That will simply the that will imply the regions are Russian. From all that, there will be a cascade of suppressed sanctions to the sectors of the Russian banking system involved in foreign trade. That's hardcore geopolitics in action. The China-Russia front, involving a deeply complex, comprehensive strategic partnership, is way more complex, much more than BRICS. Beijing's priority is Belt and Road Initiative, or New Silk Roads, the overarching geoeconomics framework of Chinese foreign policy, opening new markets for Chinese products globally. The EU was supposed to be the top final destination of the Belt and Road Initiative network. So now there is a serious dichotomy in play. Quote, Beijing was seriously off balance by the fact of Russian demolition of the EU's cash flow via the SMO, the Special Military Operation, that reduced the actual value of the EU market from Belt and Road Initiative. Yet, in parallel, Russia's fast and lightning resurgence as a great military power, strategically defeating the whole collective West, was unveiled, a few new tricks of Beijing ahead of its epic confrontation with Trump 2.0, which does see China as the imminent threat to the empire of chaos. In the end, it's all about resistance, from Donbass to the Eastern Mediterranean, from BRICS Iran to BRICS Russia. China, meanwhile, is watching the geopolitical river flow and learning everything there is to learn. And that's it. Just one article, 21 minutes. And the other subway is coming. Look, I was so slow. But I face a lot of problems. And look, I have Mediterranean fruits here, and voila, a stinky crab, absolutely stinky. Smells like I don't know, smells like 200 fish 200 stinky fish. And here we go, just waiting for the train. Goodbye, train. No. Let's go now. No.